The Bliss Business Podcast, the show about empathy, connection, and consciousness in business. Today's episode is brought to you by Zero Company, your paid search, social media, and programmatic ad experts.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm Stephen Sakash here with my co-host, Tulio Siragusa, and our special guest today, who we'll introduce in a moment. So, I was thinking before the show today, like love in the systems of logistics can often be expressed in like sustainability efforts. But we're going to look through the lens of logistics today in some interesting ways and how compassion can show up. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Obviously we're going to explore sustainable business practices and ethical leadership, innovation, and how businesses can use their influence and operational power to create meaningful change beyond profit alone. But Tulio, introduce our guest today.
Absolutely. It'll be my pleasure. Our guest today is Sam Berman. He's the founder and CEO of LARC, which stands for Logistics Advanced Research Center. Sam is an entrepreneur, engineer, and logistics innovator focused on transforming how the world moves high-value technology infrastructure. Under his leadership, LARC has developed a high-performance, reusable crating platform designed to replace outdated wood packaging with stronger, lighter, more secure, and fully sustainable solutions. His work spans hyperscale infrastructure, AI, cloud computing, semiconductors, aerospace systems, and complex global logistics challenges, serving some of the world's largest technology and data center operators. Beyond innovation and sustainability, Sam is also leading Haven, an initiative of LARC dedicated to helping end human trafficking and exploitation. Through Haven, LARC commits a percentage of every sale to organizations working to abolish slavery, sex trafficking, and exploitation while helping restore hope and support survivors through action and advocacy. Sam is also the author of Militant Mind, The Psychology of Building What Doesn't Exist, where he explores the mindset required to challenge entrenched systems and create entirely new categories of innovation. Known for his bold thinking and direct perspective, Sam brings a unique voice to conversations around disruption, resilience, leadership, ethics, and sustainable innovation. Sam, welcome to the Bliss Business Podcast.
Tulio and Steve, I'm very happy to be here. It's been a long time in coming, so excited for this conversation today. Really am.
Sam, you've got this in a frame behind you for people who can't, who are listening. There's Sam's got this, right there.
Yeah.
Tell us a little about what's in that.
That is a napkin with a little sketch on it that I did about 11, 12 years ago, sitting in a restaurant with a gentleman who owned a wood crating company. And when we were there, he took a phone call. It's a typical Silicon Valley story. Happened to happen in Silicon Valley. And that phone call, he got off and he said, I've got server racks coming in every week for like 8 weeks. I've got to get those crated up. And I asked him, how much do those cost? He said, about $1,200, $1,400 each. And I very jokingly said to him, well, what are you doing that for? Just put a giant toilet paper tube over those things and ship them out. What are you doing? He went to the restroom. I grabbed a pen and a napkin from the waitress, sketched an idea that popped in my head about a reusable modular shipping container for moving those, because why are we using one-time wood crates? That didn't make any sense. I actually asked him and was going to have him go into business with me when I had this concept, and he declined. And I said, all right, well, I'm gonna do a little research. Did some and realized that there's billions of dollars of crates built in the world. And every one of them was taking 1 to 1.5 trees to build that. And that didn't make sense. Why are we shipping the world's most powerful and important technology in dead trees, right? That doesn't make sense in the modern world. So once I realized what was happening, I spent a couple of years developing this concept of reusable crating for mostly server racks for the data center space, which back then was big, but it wasn't even anywhere near what it is today. It's exponentially larger now. But after that, I kind of saw in California it wasn't working out so well. So I moved my family to Tennessee, met my co-founder, Chris Taylor, who is a mechanical engineer out of Vanderbilt, a lot of international experience like I do, but we're very different people. So it's great. I kind of keep the fires going. He keeps the common sense going. But together we sort of drive a pretty powerful concept out there, and paradigm shifting coming to take on very entrenched giants. And we're getting a whole lot of traction these days. And we're becoming kind of a standard for moving this very high value product. So from that napkin sketch to today, we're not a huge company. We're still considered a small company, but we work with the largest companies in the world moving their product. So kind of a fun story, and we've changed the whole way we do this, the whole paradigm, and it's been quite a grind, but here we are, and we continue to grow.
Amazing. So you're in the business of moving things, and LARC, in fact, was built to rethink how valuable technology infrastructure is transported globally. But you also created work through Haven, and that expands into human impact and social responsibility. What inspired you to connect business operation and logistics with a mission also focused on ending a different kind of logistics, human trafficking and exploitation?
So thank you for asking that question, because no one ever does, and all the interviews I've done. This is kind of a really cool story. One of our early investors, a very wealthy gentleman down in Memphis, Tennessee. Most of our investors are out of Tennessee. Actually, we went down to visit him, and interestingly, he had over his desk a picture of the Prayer at Valley Forge in George Washington. Same exact picture I literally have over my computer right now. And I thought, wow, this is really interesting. And I'm a person of very deep faith, and this gentleman was too. We had a conversation about it, and so he asked a set of questions that no investor had ever asked me before. He said, I know you're a good businessman. I know you've done a lot of things, but tell me what's on your heart. I want to know who you are. I said, it's strange, but the thing that has just been really on my heart lately is human trafficking. It just seems like a problem, here in Tennessee, through the Atlanta corridor, there's a lot of issues. It seems like the greatest sex trafficking issues that are going on in human trafficking are actually in the United States. I mean, Super Bowl Sunday is the worst day of the year for that, apparently. And so I just told him, he said, this is, for whatever reason, this has really been on my heart lately. He said, that's really an interesting thing, Sam, because that's exactly what I'm doing too. So not only do we have the same picture of the Prayer at Valley Forge, we had the same thing on our hearts at the same time. He said, how much do you need? That was the only questions he asked me. And so I told him, well, because we're going to do something, because obviously there's a purpose here. There's a reason and mission here. So when we originally started with, it was called Movement for Good, and we shortened it to Haven after a while. And what it was the idea that cargo containers are for cargo, not for people. A lot of human beings get transferred in cargo containers and that type of thing. And so the logistics business, is unsexy as it seems, is the largest business in the world. I mean, Tulio, you just mentioned that people move things we move in the business of moving things. Well, think about this. Everything in the world moves, right? Like, it's literally the most massive industry out there. And yet we're ignoring this idea that part of that cargo sometimes is human beings being moved around the world in different ways. And so what we did, because we're not in that business of stopping human trafficking, that's not our expertise. What we decided to do is we're going to take a little bit of what we make and make sure that we're funding those organizations out there that are out there doing that actively, and not just in the sense of advocacy, but actively going out and rescuing people from this absolutely horrendous and evil situation. So we really wanted to be active with it. We first worked with the International Justice Mission, but now my wife and daughter have actually taken over running Haven for us. And so we're going to focus it more on localized efforts, because we think that we can have more of an impact there. So we're kind of shifting it over to some very specific Tennessee run organizations to help stop that trafficking through these southern corridors that are happening. So we really, our thought was, we've been blessed with the opportunity to have, this business that we can build, that we're gaining from it. And so we want to always be giving something back there in that way. And this to this day remains on my heart. And I think the problem has gotten a lot worse, not better, in the world today. So that's how we do it. And like I said, we don't focus specifically on it ourselves. We're not running it, but there are experts out there. We keep an eye on what they're doing pretty closely.
There's two camps out there, without getting into a whole political conversation, but there's two camps. There are those who are like, well, the government should fix these problems. And then there are those who say the private sector can play a big role in fixing these problems. And there are a lot of businesses, well, let me rephrase that. There are actually not a lot of businesses who think the impact they could have beyond profit, the responsibility of leaders to society. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think leaders have a responsibility to do more of things like this, to contribute to fixing some of these issues from the private sector, and why?
I think the definition of leadership is that, right? You lead, you go and you fix problems, and you clear the path for other people to be able to fix problems. So as far as the government goes, they can barely run the DMV, right? So it is up to us as individuals to get involved, right? We have a moral responsibility to do that, right? As business leaders, you've been given the opportunity to enter the market spaces of your peers in the world, in the country. So you, in your community, right? So you exist in a community of people. I mean, companies themselves, guys, they're only people, right? So you have a moral obligation. You know, it's the Spider-Man thing, right? With great power comes great responsibility. And if it's just all for you, that's pretty shallow. I mean, it might be, you know, an inch deep and a mile wide, but that's not what people need to be doing out there. Leadership, by definition, is going out and solving problems in your company, in your community, in your home, in your family, in the world. You know, and I can't fix it all, but I can do what I can do, right? So I think it's pretty simple for me. And again, I'm a very faith-based guy. So, you know, I believe in faith and works, right? You have to do both to be a complete human being. So absolutely, you must do that. And as far as the government goes, me personally, they should be as small as humanly possible, and other people should take care of their problems in a community-based situation, because we do a far better, far more, far cleaner job of it, because it belongs to us. And if we all take responsibility for ourselves and each other, boy, what a world it would be, right?
So how can we get like more logistics companies thinking the way you're thinking? You know, like having these conversations, I think is like really important, right? We're kind of building awareness. But you think about human trafficking, you know, there's all these different components to the logistics of that. And we've got, you know, one company right here trying to help, you know, chip away at that. How can we get more leaders in this space thinking about this particular issue?
Yeah, I think it's incumbent on people like us at LARC to talk to our partners, because we're partnered with the largest logistics companies in the world. And so we've actually begun having these discussions with them, saying, hey, would you like to join this initiative and join this effort? It's kind of like pulling teeth, because there's so many layers to go through, but we do have those discussions. So really the idea is to go through layers of partnerships and say, hey, we've got an idea. This is how it's working. Would you guys join us? And there's definitely some interest there, but it's still, you know, it's hard when they're big public companies and so forth. But once you get to the right place, you can kind of get some traction there. So we do have some that are interested in doing that with us. We knew our initiative was fairly small to start, but the idea is just build partnerships around an initiative that's powerful, and that's, you know, if they don't have to do a lot of work around it and they just make a donation, that tends to help that effort. So we're doing a lot of that right now, but anyone can be doing that. If you have a thing where you've got a lemonade stand, you're going to donate a little bit, ask all your friends to start lemonade stands, right? Bring people together. You know, I think there's power in those numbers. And I think that the trick is to have it as flushed out as possible. So it's very low effort on the part of those partners to do something. So.
Yeah. And you've got to start somewhere, right? So it's like
first step, right?
Yeah. So, and I just know, like we always say this, little by little can make a lot. So you just kind of got to chip away at that. And I love that you're having those kinds of conversations, because think back, you know, well, it's not happening in a lot of companies right now, but these weren't even thoughts really about our bigger impact on the world for a lot of companies, you know, for a long time. But now we're all starting to think a little more, I think, empathetically about our relationship in the world as a business. And so I just wanted to commend you on having those conversations, just because you got to start somewhere, right?
And I'd be curious, Sam, I'd actually be curious, because there's always the debate, right? Where do we focus our money, our attention? We either innovate or we give back. And you know, you're in very complex industries. AI, cloud computing, semiconductors, aerospace. I'm wondering what's been your experience, and maybe you can share this for the benefit of other leaders who might struggle with this idea that innovation and doing what's good, what's grounded on good ethics, can actually be intertwined. One could benefit the other. I'd be curious to hear how that's been for you, and maybe share that with some other leaders who think you have to choose one or the other.
Well, I think that's an interesting question. I'll tell you why. Something I've noticed in our marketing, particularly, is that when we market our products, we get traction. When we market ourselves, our stories, we get 8 to 10 times the traction. And I think that business leaders need to understand that people are dying for authenticity. They're dying for human connection. They're dying to matter, to be a part of something bigger than themselves. And companies would be really smart to embrace that idea that this, we have social media that's the most antisocial thing that's ever existed. Look at all my followers. Have you had dinner with any of them? Well, no. Okay, then who are they, right? Have you discussed a problem with them? Well, no. So I think people are really reticent to continue going down that path. They want to have that human connection. I think if companies understand this, they'll start to say, maybe the thing is, if we help others, then human beings will want to be a part of our mission. People want to be part of the mission. They don't want to be just a consumer. They don't want to be a number. They don't want to be a revenue generator. They want to matter, which is why these kids spend all their time on phones and social media. They want to matter, but they are moving more and more away from mattering. In fact, they matter very little now because they're not out there doing the things that do matter. And I will tell you something like Haven, if we rescue one girl being sex trafficked, that's one, right? So because that matters to that person, but if we rescue at 10,000 or 100,000, great. But everyone counts. And I think that the companies out there need to understand people want to be a part of that success story. They want to do something that their heart is screaming at them to do. And all these companies are doing right now. I mean, gosh, in the Silicon Valley, I remember years ago when all these video game stuff coming out, they were hiring psychologists and social engineers to design these games to be addictive. And I thought, man, that's one of those evil things I've ever heard in my life, right? So you're going to put these kids in a 6-inch screen or in front of their computer all night so they're not getting anything valuable done. And then all of us, my generation, I mean, I'm in my 50s, but my generation is like, man, this is not okay. You don't sit and listen to music with your friends anymore. You ask someone on a date and it's like via text. You break up with your girlfriend on a text, and this is inhuman. So I think people want to have that human connection desperately. I think that companies would be really smart to embrace that, because people, I don't know if you guys have noticed this. You probably have in this kind of environment that you're in, these discussions. I know you interviewed my good friend Chelsea Espinosa, and she's very much, she's very empathic and very much into human connection. And we've had some discussions about people want this human connection. And so it's getting more and more. I don't know if you noticed it really is starting to happen more and more in the world now. Like people are starting to drop these stupid phones and I'm going outside. I'm going to go do something more human. I need to travel more. I need to be engaged in the world. So I think, again, very long-winded answer to your question, but these companies would be very smart to embrace that humanity right now, because people are kind of tired of the other.
Sam, I need to put that last. I'm just nodding over here the whole time. I need to put like that last, like your whole answer there, like that first. I don't know how long, but I'm just like nodding my head. I'm all. This could just go right on the front of our website for our marketing agency, because
preach it.
Yeah, because it's just like what we were talking about so often. But you said it very passionately there. So I'm just this is like exactly what we've been preaching so often. I want to switch gears just a little bit, because we talk a lot about systems in the show and kind of how you can scale. We talk about scaling love, scaling compassion, those kind of things. And in logistics, I kind of mentioned at the top of the show, what's interesting to me is love in the system of logistics can be kind of expressed in sustainability efforts just by small little incremental changes that when you scale them up, have big impact. So like you were talking about 2 trees, per shipment, right? That we were using in the past, or I'll let you talk about it a little bit, but there's a lot of ways from the sustainability aspect where these small little changes can make a difference over scale. Can you talk a little bit about what you're doing as system-wise, scale-wise?
Yeah, scale being the operative word there, right? Yeah. So just a little bit of history. Wood crates, right? No one grows up saying, I want to build crates. No one's passionate about it until you maybe see it from a business perspective and you go, my gosh, this actually is a massive opportunity. But the history of it is interesting. There's wood crates found in Egyptian tombs, right? And we're still using those same wood crates to move the most important products in the world, whether that be data servers, medical equipment, robotic systems, automation systems, you name it, right? And so we're moving technology at this absolutely breakneck speed and investing hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars in these efforts, right? I mean, data center costs $4 billion to build, right? So yet we're still using 4,000-year-old technology. And the only difference between the one found in the Egyptian tomb and the one that you just paid $2,500 for is that one's in a museum in Cairo, and the one you just paid for is in a burn pit in Mexico or Malaysia, right? And so it does take about a tree or 2 trees, depending on the size of the crate. One of my marketing people just sent out some today. I just love it. I almost fell on my chair when I saw it. It said, green companies have got to stop shipping their product in dead trees, right? And I was like, that's our message right there, right? Not just it's sustainable, but from an economics perspective, it doesn't make sense, right? I'm a kid from the 70s and early 80s. That's when I grew up. I don't know how old you guys are, but my first album was Blondie, right? So
same
age. Yeah. So we come from a different time and place where we didn't get a new car every 2 years, 3 years, right? We didn't throw things away and say, I'll just get a new pair of shoes, right? We came from a time and place where reduce, reuse, recycle wasn't even a thing. It was an economic decision your mom was making that you were going to wear your older brother's pants because she wasn't buying new ones, right? And she was going to sew up that hole in the pants, right? My gosh, I told someone the other day, I was laughing. I said, we actually ate leftovers. My gosh, can you imagine?
I remember patches. That was a common thing on your pants, right?
You buy them at the grocery store, and your mom irons that thing on, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And you got one pair of shoes for the school year. I mean, that's the way we live. But now we live in a very different throwaway society, right? Everything is throwaway. And so we've got to get back to that way of thinking where your grandfather had that radio. He bought it when he was 20 years old, married to your grandmother, and you were sitting there listening to the ball game in 1982 on it, right? Same radio, because he repaired it with his friend down the road. We have to get back to that mentality, but at scale. Meaning that think about a hyperscaler that's going to build hundreds of thousands of rack systems that year, right? And each one of those is going to take a wood crate. That's now, say, 200,000 trees, 400,000 trees chopped down, 600,000 gallons of fuel used to do that, massive amounts of chemical spray on there, heat treatment, electricity, all of that kind of stuff. And they're going to use it once. Now the industry's kind of changed because of what we're doing. They're going, oh, no, we use that crate 3 to 5 times. I just the other day was at a customer and I saw some of our crates that have been used for 1,000 cycles, 1,000 times without a single repair. It's not even a close comparison, right? So we are that change. And we don't save, say, carbon. We don't save a little carbon. We save carbon in the metric tons, right? We don't save a few trees. We save millions. We don't save a little bit of fuel. We save hundreds of thousands, not millions of gallons of fuel when you utilize us at scale. And we do all of this with a product that is more highly engineered, better protection. We've never damaged a single product in one of our crates ever. I always tell customers, if you're the first one, I swear I'll make you famous. You'll be on our website and all over our socials. But we've never damaged anything. So we're a much more highly engineered product, and we're about 30 to 40% less expensive. And the reason that is because we use what's called packaging as a service. We actually lease our crates. We don't sell them. It's kind of like a ride sharing program, right? Once a customer's done with it, we come and reformat them for another customer. We reformat them for another project they're doing, but it's the same crates. So it really is a singularly better way to do it. And the cool fact is we can deliver a far superior product, far, far more sustainable. It's not even measurable how much better it is. And we can do it at a lower cost. I mean, that's the trifecta, right? And people think, well, it's going to be a lot more expensive, but it's not. Because if you just think about how to do it better and it's a shared economy in this case, it works much better. So it just makes a lot of sense. And it always makes me wonder why we don't have 10 million crates floating around the world, but there is certainly resistance to it. But that's kind of it in a nutshell. It's kind of a big nutshell, but a nutshell nonetheless.
Yeah, it's just you painted a really great picture. It's these little tiny incremental changes sometimes, at scale, it's just massive impact that you can make. And so, I don't know. Yeah, maybe logistics doesn't sound sexy or something as a business story, but you just went through just something that people are very, very passionate about, and get behind. And this is how you can kind of really build a higher purpose to what you're doing.
For sure. And I'll tell you, Stephen, I'm upset that you said it's not sexy, and it implies that I'm not sexy, and it's bothersome. But as far as scale goes, I mean, it's a difference between a squirt gun and a fire hose, right? It really is. And these companies are operating at scales now that are just unimaginable. We can't build data centers fast enough. We don't have enough space to ship things. We can't build the product fast enough. We can't get the components fast enough. It's literally, I hate the term exponential because it's misused often in the world. Oh, it's exponential growth. Very few things in the world are truly exponential growth other than, say, like viruses, right? This is really getting close to that, though. And it's almost a scary clip because it's one of those things where we're running so fast with it, we almost don't know what the consequences of it are going to be. But we have to, because it's a level of competition now that has never existed in the world. I mean, it's truly like a war going on out there, and it's an arms race for who can get these things deployed faster. And so it really has become the most important things in the world out there. And it's right now, this podcast that we are talking on is going through probably 10 data servers and 10 different, data centers. And so this doesn't exist without that technology. And AI is, whatever you think of it, it's an arms race. And so this is not going to stop anytime in the near future. It's only going to get more and more radical and crazy.
Well, everything you're describing, is tied to being very intentional. When you talk about the numbers, you obviously are not just disrupting an industry, you're intentionally making it better. You're intentionally contributing to the betterment of the planet, really. There's a lot of companies like, we're here to change the world, make the world a better place, but then show me the numbers, the impact that's really having. And you guys actually have it. And being purposeful is really important. As you even mentioned before, when you guys are marketing your product, you get great results. But when you're talking about your company and why you exist, you get even greater results. So humans love to be associated with things that are purposeful. In fact, employees, consumers, they're increasingly expecting organizations to operate with purpose and transparency and with social responsibility. This is an expectation now, not just a nice to have. So how have ethics and purpose shaped the way you approach innovation, the way you lead, and the broader impact on your work?
So I'd say it's more than ethics for me. My co-founder, Chris Taylor, and I, we both share our faith. And when we started this company, we decided we're going to build this faith on a foundational basis, or this company on a foundational basis, based on what we believe. And we're going to stick to that. And I mentioned at one point, it doesn't mean we don't butt heads. It doesn't mean we're perfect angels ever. I mean, far from it, actually. But it does give us a baseline to operate from. A lot of companies out there tell a great story, but sometimes it's just a story. And I think that if you actually operate from that perspective, if you live your values, if you live beyond just your ethics, but your truth, and you want everyone to rise up with you, for all those boats to rise within the company. Like everyone at LARC is an owner, for example, of the company, because it matters that we make everyone successful, that we're doing something more in the world than just moving our advanced systems. We have to advance humanity, right? People think that because we have these unbelievable technology systems in the world now, that we're this hyper advanced organization or this hyper advanced community and culture now. Actually, it's kind of the opposite, right? As that develops, as I mentioned earlier, we lose our humanity, we lose our connection with each other. So I think that going forward with that idea that we have to maintain that connection, maintain that care for each other, and want to see everyone succeed, I think that makes a huge difference. There are some large companies out there that really do practice what they preach. The one that comes to mind immediately is Microsoft. We work with them a little bit, and they really do practice their sustainability. They're very specific about it. They're very intentional about it. You mentioned intentionality. That's very critical. But there are a lot of companies out there that do greenwash their operations, and I think that their customers have to hold their feet to the fire on that kind of thing, not just from a sustainability perspective, but what else are you doing for humanity? We talk a lot about sustainability, but what are you doing for education? What are you doing for culture? What are you doing for, just general well-being of your community? Are you putting some of the money into the community of where some of your lower income employees work, right? Because some of those people are traveling an hour and a half just to get to work because they have to live so far away from the facility, right? So what are you thinking about when you're doing this? Is there a level of care there? And I think that the consumer can truly hold their feet to the fire on that kind of thing. I think there was a situation like last year or the year before where there was a shoe company, and it turned out that they were using some labor that it was child labor or something, or slave labor, something really bad. And their consumers just crushed them. They absolutely just went after them, and it turned around almost immediately. There was a situation where some of the factories in China, the conditions were so bad as some of the electronics manufacturers, they had to put up suicide nets on the buildings. And I think the consumers found out about that and absolutely just tore those companies apart, and they got involved. And sometimes it's not the fault of the companies. They don't know. They're not aware of some of these things, but they become aware of them. They do address it. But it is up to the consumer to say, well, listen, if you're going to be that company, I'm not going to buy your product. And make it hurt a little bit and sort of drive and force that change. You can't always force someone to be moral or kind or decent, but I will tell you that money does talk in those circles, right? If the money dries up, suddenly morality and ethics start to develop.
I think it's like it's an Achilles heel that they aren't aware of right now, is how conscious people are about these issues of like supply chain. And if you're, your whole organization, like we talked about, if you're like hyperscale, they really want to know about these different aspects of your supply chain. And if you aren't thinking about it consciously, it's this major just Achilles heel, just waiting to come and get you at some point, because of how we're kind of evolving consciously.
I think some of the investors have made that clear to some of these companies that the money's not coming if you don't follow this rule set. There's bottom lines and there's bottom lines, right? There's the bottom line of the money, but there's the bottom line of humanity, right? There's the bottom line of what are you giving back? And I think people have become very cognizant and conscious of that, right? And I think companies are very aware of it now. It's interesting. Having said that, I think it's waning a little bit right now. I will say that because I think when the economy starts to get a little weird, companies, the first thing they're going to cut are those things. Because then their investors say, "What are you doing to protect the investment?" Right? But it comes in sort of waves, and I think we're waning a little bit. But it does come back, and people are conscious, and people are becoming more conscious of those things. And I just got a whole house water filter because I'm conscious of the fact that I don't want this garbage coming into my house. People are conscious of what they eat now. Well, where was it raised? Is it grass fed? Is it organic? People are very conscious of these things. They don't want big institutions driving profit to say, oh, you'll eat this because it tastes good, but it's got 14,000 chemicals in it, right? People are like, no, I think I'll just have that instead. So consciousness and the power of numbers does absolutely drive that. No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
All right, we've got a couple audience questions here. Let's pull one of those up now. It's from a LinkedIn user. How do you see the next 5 years of logistics worldwide, and what part would you like LARC to play?
Well, I think logistics is becoming, well, first of all, I don't know who asked that question, but thank you for that. Logistics is becoming incredibly complex. Things are moving at speeds that we've never seen before. The demand is off the charts. And people are looking for new and innovative ways to do things. They're trying to move supply chains closer to their manufacturing facilities, closer to their customers. These things take time, money, and effort. So the logisticians out there like me, the people out there driving supply chains are having to become very innovative. Prices are going up. So it's really important that we remain cognizant of how those supply chains are, have resilience to them. It's very important to understand what the complexities are now and what they're going to be. I mean, tariffs might go up and suddenly that supply chain drives up, right? I remember back when I was doing it, I guess twice I got stopped by volcanoes in Iceland, right? I mean, there's crazy things that happen. Security issues are going through the roof, right? Sustainability still has to be maintained, but speed has become definitely the thing that's most important. And again, the data center world, if that thing's not online, every hour it's not online, you could be losing thousands and thousands of dollars, right? So getting it there safely, getting it there, in a very controlled manner is important. As far as LARC goes, I mean, I think we're only going to continue to grow into these cycles. We are sort of the bleeding edge of that. And I think that, packaging has been one of those things that's been overlooked for a million years. And suddenly we've moved it to the front of the supply chain. And people say, wait, you're telling me this thing is lighter than wood, so it's going to cost me less to move on an airplane. I can put 2 extra ones on a truck versus wood crates. That means every 10 trucks, I knock one out, right? They're safer, they're faster. So my time to market is faster.
It all adds up.
It all adds up, right? And so we are the bleeding edge, and the sort of archaic or legacy systems that have existed are going to start to fade out. And we're still fighting up that hill because people are, this is not how we've always done it, but it's starting to shift. And once that shift happens, once that goes over the hill, man, it's just going to be rolling down. It's going to be rolling down hard. And we're already starting to see it. I mean, just today, one of the largest aerospace companies in the world contacted us, said, we need your help designing something. I've had the largest data center companies in the world contact us, say, we need your help designing something because your engineering is good and you've got the right attitude on what we're trying to accomplish. So LARC is absolutely incredibly well placed for the future of the world, logistics and supply chains. And we're only continuing to develop newer, better, faster products. And we're listening to our customers out there. What do you need? How do we iterate and make it constantly better? Whereas the wood crate market is, well, we can add more wood to it. And they sort of reach engineering maximums. So we are the future, and you're only going to see that grow and grow and grow. So whoever asked that question, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, let's see. We've got another question. Let's bring that up here. How do you coach a team member who has the talent but lacks the militant mindset needed to innovate?
Wow, that is a fantastic question. Thank you for that. I think I should probably describe what a militant mindset is.
Yes.
A militant mindset is not being like hyper aggressive. It's being very focused on what you're doing. It comes from my background in my book. And it's really the psychology of building what doesn't exist. And so in terms of coaching someone how to do it, it really is just, it's kind of hard to coach someone to do it. They have to almost have this innate drive in them to want to do it, to want to succeed. It's a certain kind of person that says, I will climb up that hill against all obstacles, against all, distractions, because I have belief in what I'm doing. And I think the key to that is belief and purpose. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, if you have purpose, you can basically do anything. As long as you understand why you're doing it, you can do it. So in terms of how I would coach anybody, unfortunately, the LARC team, we're all kind of already there, and we're a pretty small team, but we're already pretty much that militant mindset. But if I were to coach somebody do it, I would simply give them purpose, and then I would trust them to act. And the purpose would be, we're changing the world. We're attacking entrenched systems. How fun is that? We're paradigm shifting, these long established companies and these long established systems. So let's go have some fun. Let's go break this system down and build up, let's tear it down and build up what works right. And so now we have purpose. And like I said, everyone at LARC has some ownership in the company. So we're all building our own futures. So that's what I do, is just say, I would instill purpose in somebody. Because here's the thing that kind of is interesting. People think that you have to have a certain personality, but it all comes down to purpose, right? Again, if you have that purpose, you can accomplish anything. If you really want to do something, truly want to do it, nothing will stop you. If you don't really want to do it, pretty much anything will stop you. So just find your purpose, whether it be building LARC, building a new school, you want to be the world's greatest chef. If you have passion and you find purpose, feeding people is my purpose, then nothing's going to stop you. So the militant mindset is going through those things like that you have to go through as a founder: the isolation, the violence of the doubt, right? The scar tissue. And all founders, I say this in every interview I'm ever in, all founders, if you look at us, we have something that broke in us a long time ago, something that we overcame. So find that thing in there that you need to overcome and do whatever it takes to overcome it by finding your passion and your purpose. And then you'll be able to do it. And I will tell you right now, my purpose is I want to build a legacy, and I want to build this for my family. So they're my purpose. Every day I get up, I say, I'm going to build a great future for my family. And the truth is, this is the petty side of being an entrepreneur. All those people who told you couldn't do it, all those people who told you were too weak, not fast enough, not strong enough, not smart enough, whatever they told you, that's all that nonsense that they're trying to instill in your head, you're going to prove them wrong. And that sometimes drives purpose too. I'm going to prove you all wrong. And hopefully that kind of answers the question, but it really isn't. It isn't about, hey, I'm this kind of personality, I'm this mindset. It's find that purpose, and then your mind will follow.
Yeah. So we've talked a bit about purpose, and I think this next question, ties closely to kind of my purpose. But I ask, all business leaders that come on the show, some form of this is, what role should love play in business?
All of it. All of it. There's a conclusion that at the end of the day, if you read my book, there's a conclusion that at the end of the day, it is about love. It's about, I have friends who are in the military, very high up, combat veterans, and they, Navy SEALs stuff, and they tell me, we never fight for hatred of what's in front of us. We fight for love of what's behind us. And we fight for the love of my brother who's in that foxhole with me.
Yep.
All of it at the end of the day is about love. If you don't get that, you're missing the point of it, right? At the end of every great journey, every great epic, it's a love story, right? It's a love story for yourself, saying, I am good enough. And one of the things I always like to tell people who are thinking about doing anything or starting anything is that you are enough. Don't believe the nonsense that you were told your whole life that you're not. Don't believe what the culture tells you. Don't believe what other people who don't want to work told you. You are enough. And that really is a love story for yourself, but it's also a love story on the people who take the journey with you. And, I told you, I'm driven by my family. I look at my wife, the love of my life, and I say, I'm doing this for you. My 2 children, I'm doing it for you because I love you enough to do it. I don't have to do any of this stuff, right? I don't have to build these companies. I could be retired and not do any of it. But the fact is, I love what I do. This is oxygen to me, creation. And I tell people all the time, the greatest gift we have in this world is that we're given the power of creation. And that in itself is a love story, right? I go to Europe and I see these cathedrals that were built 1,000 years ago. So that's a love story right there, right? To spend your entire life carving 1,000 stones that you're never going to see complete, planting seeds of trees shade you'll never sit under. That's a love story, right? So everything that you do in life, if you do it with love, whether it be taking care of your body, taking care of your mind, taking care of your soul, if you do it with love, it's going to turn out a great deal better. And for those people who don't have love in their lives, I couldn't feel worse for them. And even if it's not like love with another person, but just love of what you're doing, love of yourself, you've missed the boat completely. Turn yourself around and get on it.
Beautiful. Speaking of being a creator, so this is the quick rapid fire here. Okay, we're at the end. We want people watching maybe to remember one thing that they can take to heart. So if a leader who wants to create more responsible and purpose-driven organization, what is one practical mindset shift they should embrace right away?
Everything is giving. Leaders eat last. Like the Simon Sinek book, you are second in that decision post. Take care of your people at all cost. Beautiful.
And if people want to learn about you and connect with you, what should they do? How do they do that?
I'm very active on LinkedIn. It's actually Samuel Berman. So you can reach me through LinkedIn, or you can go to our website, larc.co. So it's larc.co, the shortest thing ever, I always like to joke, say it's .co because we don't want to pay for the M when we were first starting out. So LARC.co, you can reach me there. If you reach out to me on LinkedIn, heck, you can even email me. I'm just Sam@LARC.co. One of the cool things about being a founder of a company is you get the shortest email address. So Sam@LARC.co, just reach out to me. I get a ton of emails, but I try my absolute best to respond to anyone who does reach out to me, especially younger people trying to start companies who want some advice.
Nice.
Sam, thank you for the conversation today. You crushed it. I was just like nodding my head a lot of times in here, just like, yes. To our listeners, great questions. Thanks again for listening and asking those questions. And maybe try and look around you and kind of recognize, those responsibilities businesses can have to influence, industries or communities and live in meaningful ways. So, kind of take that with you today. I think it was a wonderful conversation, Sam. Again, thank you. And we'll see everyone on the next Bliss Business Podcast.
Thanks, guys.